Guys, today I'm going to be sharing an end of year review on all of our group subjects that we did for the whole school year. There is a lot to cover, so I'm going to get right into the video. So first for our group subjects, we have Bible. We always start the day with Bible, and I have a couple different resources. So in no particular order, we always start the day with this Bible questions and answers for kids, challenging questions that kids ask about God in the Bible, and we just do one of these per day. And we really like it. It's very simple and basic. I think Answers in Genesis has something similar to that, so if you're familiar with that, this I think will be similar. So for example, can the Holy Spirit leave us? It gives information, and then it has a question at the bottom, and then it gives you a Bible verse to look up, and then you answer the question to kind of where in the Bible is it talking about that? Who was the greatest person in the Bible? So there's like 80 of these. Why is life so hard? They said something about like, will there be pets in heaven? If God is everywhere, why do we have to go to church? So these are really good. We just do one a day, and they're just a couple minutes to answer some of these questions that you might have, or you as an adult might not think about to bring up with your kids. And those questions get answered in a biblical sense. They use the Bible for the answer for that. Next, we have Around the World. We finished this up a couple weeks ago. This is letters from children across the nations. So I've shared this a couple times. I got this from the Daily Grace Co. So for example, they'll say North Korea, they'll give some information about North Korea. You can't really see that too well, but it's like the population and what percentage are Christian and things like that. And then it will have a letter from someone, a little boy or girl from North Korea, kind of telling about their culture, and they are always from Christians, so like if they experience persecution. Many of these are from like Muslim countries, so they kind of share just like what their experience is like. And then they have a prayer request section and some discussion questions. So we would do one country a day, and then, so for example, I do it on Monday, the country of Turkey, and then for that week, we would pray for the country of Turkey. So we finished that one. That one was really good too. We liked those so far. Next, these are from Sunlight. Sunlight is what we're doing for our history, but it also comes with a Bible as well. So this was called Starting Strong, and it's 3 books in one. So it's kind of like devotionals. It's quite old. You can tell just by the pictures, and like, I think they use the example of smoking. So-and-so was smoking, and I was like, yeah, back in the 90s, like smoking was the worst thing ever in the world. So that was always like the go-to example of like the worst kid is a smoker. We like it. It does offer some good discussion. What you do is read a couple pages. So if God gave prizes, so you just read about that and then answer some questions, and then it gives Bible references and things like that so that you can look up the answers. And again, where have we found this in the Bible? Going back to the Bible. And they did one on Peter, they did one on friendship, and one about young heroes. So we're almost finished with this one. How Sunlight works is this recommends you read like one chapter for the whole week. We just do this in a day because it doesn't take very long. Because I have a couple different Bible resources, I don't want to just spend a whole week doing this. So we would do this in a day. But again, it does not take super long, maybe 10 minutes or so to do this. And then we read these 2 books, The Case for Christ and for Kids, and The Case for Creator for Kids. These are totally recommend these. Oh, so great. There's a third one. I have it here somewhere. We didn't get to it. It's The Case for Faith for Kids. We didn't get to that because we did other resources, but I'm going to do that in the summer. Now, I had one child who complained every time I opened this book, why do we have to read this? But it is so important. This is apologetics. This needs to be in every single Christian household, some apologetics curriculum every single year, not just one semester, not just 1 year. It needs to be taught continually year after year. And as your kids get older, more and more in depth, so they have a very strong, yes, biblical foundation where they're going to church and we're reading the Bible, and all of that is important and irreplaceable. But this is just one more tool to have to build that faith. So this is both apologetics, evidence for Christ and evidence for creation, totally recommend those. And then lastly for Bible, we have Who is My Neighbor? This is from Apologia. This is the What We Believe series, Biblical Worldview. This is volume 3. So we've done the other 2 volumes. The first one was Who is God? The second one was a biblical worldview of self. And then this one is a biblical worldview of servanthood. Now it does come with a journal that has more discussion questions and things like that. And so I kind of wish I do wish we would have gotten the journal for at least my older 2. And I'm going to get them for next year for my older 2, just so we can delve in a little bit deeper. We do discuss these, but sometimes I just wish there was follow-up questions that I don't think of that would be in that journal, and they can kind of take it upon themselves to answer the questions. So we really like this. This was one of their favorites. They really enjoy this, and they're going to be sad next year when we finish. So this looks like it's a lot of Bible, and I agree. And you're maybe thinking like, do you do all of this every day? Or how do you kind of plan this? It kind of changed over the year. So the first half of the year, we just did this once a week and this once a week. And then the other 3 days I would read like this whole thing until it was done, those 3 days of the week. Or I would do this because it's 3 books in one. So I would do one of the little mini books in here 3 days a week till it was done. And then I would alternate. So that's what the first half of the year looked like. And then the second half of the year, I switched things up a little bit. We started doing this the second half of the year per my daughter's request. So we do this 3 to 4 times a week. And we do this every single day. And that's pretty much what we do. We have 1 chapter left of this. So the other 1 day a week, I will do this. And if I'm not doing this once a week, then I'm doing this. Okay, next is our kind of like extras. We do this poetry book. It came from Sunlight with our Sunlight recommended poetry. It's a total fail, bust for us. We don't like it. We're just getting through, kind of out of character. It's one of those things. It's just boring. None of us really like it. It's just these random poems. Thankfully, the only redeeming factor is that Sunlight does have in their teacher guide, it has a poetry section. So it tells you like, it just asks some discussion questions and kind of goes along with it. And that's the only really redeeming quality about it, is I can ask them questions, but a lot of the time they're like, we don't know. I don't know. We do like poetry, just not this type of poetry. It's not our jam. Next is the Thinking Toolbox. They really enjoy this. This is from, where is this from? christianlogic.com. So this is not a full-blown Christian, like blaring Christian product, but it does teach critical thinking, reasoning skills. We go through this as a group. There's 32 lessons, so we do about 1 lesson a week, and they have really enjoyed that. Next, I finished this book with my older 2. This is The Care and Keeping of You by American Girl. Now, apparently there's a newer version that people recommend you not to use. This is the older version from like the late 90s, early 2000s. So I went in there. There are a couple things in there that if you get this, you want to kind of pre-read a little bit just before to see if you want to discuss it or not. There were a couple things in there that I just chose not to discuss because I didn't even want to introduce that to my children and plant those thoughts in their heads. But to each their own. So they really enjoyed this, especially my middle one. She was like, can we do health? I started this one, I want to say like a year ago. I did a couple of the lessons, and then I did a couple more of the lessons. This is the maturation unit, the old one from The Good and the Beautiful. And it just talks about like the different reproductive systems, and it's all from a biblical worldview. So it's going to go into all of that. They have a new level on the Good and the Beautiful website that it looks good as well. I just happen to have this from a while ago, and so we finished that up. But like I said, I wanted to kind of take it in steps because there was just things that I didn't want to introduce them to at certain ages, but to each their own. I know some parents do things totally differently, and so that's just how we did it. And next we have, this is a child's introduction to the orchestra. So it's going to go through and it's going to just talk about the different periods of, like, so the Romantic era, the Baroque era, what the orchestra is, and it's going to go through different composers, Vivaldi, Bach, etc., etc. And then the second half of the book is going to cover the instruments, and it's going to kind of just give a history of the instruments and just different little fun facts. This, again, it's okay. My kids are just like, they don't really like this one. Again, there's one redeeming quality about it, and there's a website that they tell you to go on. There's no QR codes or anything. It's a website. They have like play track 23, and it will be featuring whatever instrument they're talking about. So if they're talking about the oboe, they will feature a track where you can hear it, and I really like that. So, and it's like 1 or 2 minutes, so you're not listening to a 10-minute orchestra piece. So that has been good, and we have learned some things. If you're a music loving family, you love instruments, you will really like this book. I think it will be interesting to you. It's not done bad, it's just personally not really an interest of ours. Now, history, again, was from Sunlight, and we did modern American history. So last year we finished with the Civil War. This year we picked up at the Civil War. So one of our spines for history was this landmark history of the American people from Charleston to the moon. They liked this one a little bit. It's a textbook, so the chapters are short. They're not actually super long. They're like 5 or 6 pages. So you'll read a chapter at a time. They did prefer this one compared to another one that I'll show you in just a second. This is not Christian. They didn't have anything really that I can recall like overtly anti-Christian in here. It just didn't come from a Christian worldview. The other one that we are working through is this DK Smithsonian American History. This, again, is the other spine. You will be reading this most of the time, almost daily, at least weekly. And so they didn't really like this. This is, I personally don't really either. There's like a little paragraph here, a little paragraph there, and everything's disjointed and it doesn't really flow. It's just like little blobs of information. They prefer more of like a story type than just little like, here, read 4 little different paragraphs, and that's that. Also, again, this is not Christian, and I did know that coming into it, I will say, and I'm going to do a whole review, by the way, on Sunlight, so I'm not going to get too far into depth today, but I did miss a Christian worldview history. Now, again, in the teacher guide of Sunlight, they have notes for every single day written to the parent, as well as not to the parent, but they have notes that like summarize kind of what you read, as well as questions reviewing what you talked about. And they will come from a Christian perspective and Christian viewpoint and say, hey, the book talks about this. So I do appreciate that, because it does expose your children to like different worldviews, and I get that. And Sunlight kind of brings it around and says the book talks about this. What do we think about this? Or biblically, according to the Bible, this is what this talks about. And so it does offer good discussion. We have had that. But I don't know, part of me misses like a Christian worldview perspective of things. So, but again, that's just personal. And would I do it again? Probably not, but I do enjoy all of the books that we read that did go along with the curriculum. And then lastly for history is this World Wars book. This is Usborne. We did not read this together as a group. I started to read this. Again, it's kind of like the DK history. It's a couple paragraphs here and then a couple paragraphs there. My oldest daughter in 7th grade, she read this one on her own, because my 3rd grader and 5th grader, they were reading this and it was just way over their heads. They weren't able to like really follow along. I don't know if it's just them or the curriculum. The curriculum is geared towards, I think, 5th to 8th graders. So I don't know if it's just them. I didn't expect my 3rd grader to really comprehend anything, or to comprehend as much, obviously, as my older. So my older daughter just ended up reading this one on her own, and she actually really enjoyed it. She read all 250 pages or whatever it was. So she didn't want to miss out on any details, so she enjoyed that. So just something to keep in mind, even if you are doing things like group subject, you don't have to do 100% of of the entire thing together. You know, you can just delegate a little bit. You read this, and kind of cater it to your kids' individual needs. There's 4-day or 5-day you can choose. We chose 5-day. They gave you an extra 2 history books. So this one they consider history, even though it's not. This is In Search of the Source, a first encounter with God's Word. This is about missionaries over in Papua New Guinea in like the 1970s, 1980s, and how they translated the Bible into the language and taught the people. And we're almost finished with it. I personally, I think it's okay. I'm surprised my girls don't give me a hard time about reading it. Like, they're kind of into it, which is, I don't know if that surprises me or not. I know, I personally feel like we're kind of trudging through a little bit, but they're not complaining. They, I think, like it and they find it interesting. So it is a well-written book. It's just not really like American history. And then another one is, we're not going to get to it. I don't think. We won't finish it. We might start it. We won't finish it by the end of the year. It's Lights in a Dark Place, True Stories of God at Work in Colombia. Again, this is not history. It's just missionary stories. And so we will read this. I just don't know if we'll get to it by the end of the school year. Okay, and then some readers. I'm not going to go through and tell what everything is about or if we liked it. I'm just going to hold it up. Again, I'm going to do a more in-depth review on everything on our Sunlight history in a separate whole video. So we read In the Year of the Boar and Jackie Robinson, Miracles on Maple Hill, Esperanza Rising. This is not part of Sunlight. I just added this. King of the Mound, Bruchko. We haven't gotten to this yet. This is like one of the last couple weeks of the curriculum, so we're not quite there yet. We're supposed to read The Great Wheel. We didn't. I started reading it aloud, and the wording in here was just really hard for some of my kids to follow. And then I asked my older one, do you want to read it? And she really was like, I really, really don't. And normally I say, okay, too bad. I don't remember why I said that's okay, you don't have to read it. I can't remember, because normally I don't give in to things like that. But she didn't read it. None of us read it. This is All of a Kind Family. We read this one. Old Yeller. We read this one. Hero Over Here. A Story of World War I. The Wright Brothers. Nobody read this one. Again, I can't remember why. I just did not assign this one. Sarah Plain and Tall. This is not part of Sunlight. We just happened to have this one, so I read that one. The Great Turkey Walk. Thunder Rolling in the Mountain. Read that one. And then the last two we actually did not read. I did this one on purpose. I chose a couple different books. Across 5 Apples. This takes place around Civil War time. And then Little Britches. My daughter was supposed to read this one or listen to it on audio, and I ended up getting the book, but then I forgot to have her read it. So there was a couple of them from Sunlight that we didn't get to. We got to most of them. And then there was a couple that I added on my own that weren't part of Sunlight that we just read extra. She's in 7th grade. They have readers that the children are supposed to read themselves. So she also read on her own time Gone Away Lake. She read Freedom Train, Harriet Tubman. Turn Homeward, Hannah Lee. Thimble Summer. Sing Down the Moon. Shades of Grey, not 50 Shades of Grey, just regular old Shades of Grey. The 17th Swap. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Running out of room to put all these. Plain Girl. And Henry Reed Inc. Then she's also going to finish up the year reading Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. And then we actually are going to, a couple that I forgot. We're currently reading from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. We're reading that one. And then we're almost finished with that. We'll read General Butterfingers. It's pretty short. And then finish up the year Because of Winn-Dixie. If we don't finish it by the end of the year, then we will just go into next year. Or not next year, into the summer. Finishing it up in the summer. And then there was a couple we listened to on audio. One was by The Great Horn Spoon. And then one was The Winged Watchman. We listened to those two on audio. They really enjoyed listening to the historical fiction. Now, obviously they enjoy some more than others, and we're into some more than others, but overall, I think that helps just them get a perspective of, yes, we read about this in a history book, but now we can read about someone's life and what that actually looks like, and we can incorporate that. So we really like that. I don't think I'll go any other way. I'll always have some sort of historical fiction that we incorporate into our history, just because we really enjoy that route. And then a couple more things. This we didn't do as a group. This is the U.S. Constitution and Government course from The Good and the Beautiful. Me and my daughter were doing this together, my older one in 7th grade. The reason I'm sharing this as a group subject, though, is because a lot of people do this together as a group subject. Now, it says recommended ages 4th to 8th grade. I think that is way off. I talked about this in her end of year curriculum review for 7th grade. I think unless you have a very interested 4th grader, even 5th grader who's interested in economics or not economics, but like government and in that part of history, the average 4th and 5th grader is not going to follow this. I just don't see how this is for that. This is for sure middle school, even up to 9th grade could appreciate this. If you have younger kids, if your oldest is 4th grade, I don't think you should start with this, but overall it's good. It does go into good depth. My daughter does enjoy this. It comes with a course book. It comes with a student journal. You have to have both of them. And then it comes with Mystery on Constitution Island. It's just like a chapter book that goes along to kind of correspond with the course. And then they have also like biographies that you can listen to online. And I believe that that's all the components to it. Yes. And so it's done really well. There's only 32 lessons, but it's like deceptively long because the lessons are quite long. So we have enjoyed it. She really likes it, but that would be my biggest thing, is that it just is, take your time. It goes into a lot of depth. And so you're going to be reading the Constitution and kind of going through every single article of the Constitution and all the amendments and the history of all of the different founding fathers and all of that. So it's going to give you a definitely good education on what our country founded on. And so I do really appreciate that, because it's opened things even for my eyes that I wasn't even aware of. So overall, it's great. Okay, and just finishing up with some of our read alouds that we did, in addition to the ones I mentioned for history. We did we read Caddy Woodlawn. We listened to that on audio. That was part of history. The Boxcar Children, we read one of those. We read Mary Poppins. We read The Best Christmas Pageant Ever. We also read A Letter to Mrs. Roosevelt. That one was really good. I don't know where it is. We also read a George Washington Carver book. Those were part of history. We also read out loud The Cricket in Times Square. We read The Borrowers. Then we are currently in the midst of reading The Wild Robot. My daughter picked this one up from the library, and I was gonna buy it anyway. I knew this was popular a couple years ago, and so I was like, why don't we just read this out loud? So we're reading that one, and that is it. We've watched a couple history videos along with, like, Old Yeller. We read that and then watched it. We watched The Newsies, which was a historical fiction from like the 1900s. It's a musical. It's got a young Christian Bale in it. It is from my childhood. Do you guys remember that movie, The Newsies? It was so good. I remembered like all the songs, and my girls actually really, really enjoyed it. And then we watched also from the Great Depression era, The Journey of Natty Gann, but that actually had some language in it. So I would recommend proceeding with caution on that. And I feel like we've watched a couple other ones. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, so I think overall it was a good year. There was a lot of hits. There was some misses, but hey, that's to be expected. Sometimes you can switch things up, and then sometimes you just have to power through and say, you know what, this isn't our favorite. We don't love this, but it is what it is. And we're just going to finish it just because, you know, we need to finish it. We have it. It's here. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this. I was going to say movie. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if so, you can give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe if you want to see any more homeschool curriculum and flip throughs and reviews and day in the lights. I'd love to have you here. And I hope you have a good day. Thanks, guys. Bye.